I refuse to respect anyone who doesn't earn it. Private First Class Rachel Mitchell's voice cuts through the training barracks like a knife. The 24-year-old blonde recruit hurls her military-issued boot directly at Drill Sergeant Marcus Coleman's face. He ducks. The boot crashes into the American flag hanging on the wall behind him. "You are not worthy of my respect," she screams, climbing onto her bunk. Her freshly pressed uniform tears as she rips apart her field manual, pages exploding everywhere. Fellow recruits scatter as Rachel leaps toward the drill sergeant's podium. She grabs his whistle, waving it like a weapon. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. I am the authority here, not some failed high school athlete who couldn't make it anywhere else. Rachel's dog tags jangle violently as guards tackle her. The metal chain snaps, military identification scattering across the floor like marbles. "My father is a 4-star general." You are nothing. Have you ever witnessed someone's privilege become their prison? The alarm pierces the pre-dawn darkness at 0430 hours. Drill Sergeant Marcus Coleman silences it with a weathered hand, his wedding band catching the lamplight. Steam rises from his coffee mug as he reviews training files across his kitchen table, each page stamped with tomorrow's weight. His modest 3-bedroom home on base tells the story of earned success. Military medals line the hallway walls: Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Distinguished Service Cross. 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. A master's degree in military science hangs beside a faded photo of him in desert camouflage, arm around fallen soldiers whose names he still whispers in prayer. "Morning, honey." Maria Coleman, 45, kisses his temple as she ties her nurse's scrubs. 21 years of marriage show in their comfortable rhythm. Tough batch of recruits this cycle? They're all tough, sweetheart. Some just require different approaches to find the warrior hiding inside. 17-year-old Jamal bounds downstairs, his JROTC uniform pressed to perfection. "Dad, is it true one of your recruits is General Mitchell's daughter?" Marcus folds his reading glasses, meeting his son's curious eyes. "Remember what I taught you about fairness, son. Every recruit deserves equal treatment, regardless of who their parents are. Today we test whether our training system still believes that." Across the base, Rachel Mitchell's alarm blares to life in the women's barracks. Unlike the other recruits who spring to attention, she rolls over, groaning dramatically. The daughter of General William Mitchell, commander of the 1st Armored Division, Rachel had spent her life on military bases around the world. But unlike her father, she viewed military service as beneath her talents. "Mitchell, on your feet, now!" Private Jessica Rodriguez, the barracks leader, stands at attention beside Rachel's bunk, her face a mask of professional discipline despite her growing frustration. Rachel's eyes flutter open with deliberate slowness. "Do you mind? Some of us actually need our beauty sleep." Her voice drips with the entitlement of someone who has never faced real consequences. Drill Sergeant Coleman expects all recruits assembled in 2 minutes. Rodriguez reports, her voice steady despite Rachel's insolence. Coleman can expect whatever he wants. "I'll be ready when I'm ready." Rachel examines her manicure with theatrical boredom. "My father didn't send me here to be treated like some common recruit." The barracks falls silent. Even the most hardened recruits exchange nervous glances. In the 3 weeks since basic training began, Rachel Mitchell had become notorious for her attitude, her constant references to her father's rank, and her refusal to participate fully in training exercises. Rodriguez's voice drops to a whisper. "Mitchell, please. He's already threatened the entire platoon with extra PT because of you. We can't take another 5-mile run in full gear." Something in Rodriguez's plea penetrates Rachel's armor, if only slightly. With an exaggerated sigh, she swings her legs off the bed. "Fine, but only because I don't want to hear all of you whining again." Outside, the training grounds shimmer with morning dew as 50 recruits stand at attention. Backs straight, eyes forward, the rising sun casting long shadows across the parade ground. Drill Sergeant Coleman paces before them with the controlled energy of a predator. His combat boots leave precise imprints in the soft earth, The United States Army is not a democracy. His voice carries across the field without needing amplification. It is not a social club. It is not your daddy's country club. His eyes fix on Rachel, who slouches in the back row, deliberately breaking formation. When I say 0500 hours, I mean 0500 hours, not 0507. Not whenever I feel like gracing you with my presence. Rachel rolls her eyes, a gesture not missed by Coleman's hawk-like attention to detail. Mitchell, front and center, the formation parts like water as Rachel saunters forward, her uniform hastily assembled, bootlaces untied. She stops 3 feet from Coleman, refusing to stand at attention. You called, Sergeant. Her voice carries the practiced disdain of someone who has never faced real consequences for disrespect. Coleman's face remains impassive, though a vein pulses at his temple. Mitchell, do you believe you deserve special treatment because of who your father is? Rachel's smile could cut glass. I believe I deserve appropriate treatment based on my abilities and background. I've lived on military bases my entire life. I probably know more about Army protocols than half your drill instructors. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Coleman steps closer, his voice dropping to a register only Rachel can hear. Your father earned his stars through blood, sweat, and sacrifice. What have you earned, Mitchell? Rachel's composure cracks slightly, a hairline fracture in her perfect facade. I earned my place here by being born into this life. I didn't choose it. No one in this formation chose to be born, Mitchell. They chose to serve. Coleman raises his voice for all to hear. Today's exercise, 5-mile tactical run, full gear, followed by obstacle course and weapons familiarization. His eyes lock with Rachel's. Mitchell will be team leader for Alpha Squad. Groans ripple through the formation. Being in Rachel's squad meant certain failure, extra laps, and punishment PT. She had sabotaged every leadership opportunity with either neglect or active obstruction. Problem, recruits? Coleman's voice drops dangerously. No, Drill Sergeant, they respond in unison. Mitchell, report to the armory for special assignment. The rest of you, gear up. Inside the armory's fluorescent-lit confines, Coleman hands Rachel a clipboard with equipment checklists. You're responsible for your squad's gear distribution. Every piece accounted for, every weapon properly signed out. Rachel's expression darkens. Inventory management? Seriously? I have a business degree from Georgetown. Then this should be easy for you. Unless paper pushing is beneath Georgetown graduates? Coleman's slight smile suggests he knows exactly which buttons to push. Rachel snatches the clipboard with unnecessary force. Fine. I'll play along with your little power trip. This isn't about power, Mitchell. It's about responsibility. Something your file suggests you've spent a lifetime avoiding. The morning unfolds like a disaster in slow motion. Rachel's half-hearted equipment distribution results in 3 missing canteens, mixed-up rucksacks, and 1 recruit receiving blank ammunition while another gets live rounds. Coleman watches from a distance, documenting every failure with clinical precision. By noon, Alpha Squad staggers through the obstacle course, 15 minutes behind the other teams. Rodriguez drags herself over the final wall, covered in mud but determined. The rest of the squad follows with varying degrees of exhaustion and resentment, all eyes eventually turning to Rachel, who had barely participated, claiming a, quote, tactical leadership position that mainly involves shouting unhelpful directions from the sidelines. Coleman blows his whistle with authority that makes everyone except Rachel snap to attention. Alpha Squad, that performance was unacceptable. 20 push-ups, everyone. The squad drops immediately, faces grim with determination despite their exhaustion. Everyone except Rachel. Mitchell, did you not hear my order? Coleman's voice cuts through the training ground. Rachel examines her nails with theatrical boredom. I heard you. I'm just not doing push-ups in this mud. These are designer boots my father had custom-made. The training ground falls silent. Even veteran instructors observing from the sidelines exchange glances of disbelief. In 20 years of training recruits, no one had ever directly refused an order from Drill Sergeant Coleman. Designer boots. Coleman repeats the words as if examining an alien concept. Mitchell, this is your final warning. Drop and give me 20, or face disciplinary action. What are you going to do? Call my father? Quote. Rachel's laughter tinkles across the obstacle course. He's the one who pulled strings to get me assigned to this pathetic excuse for a training battalion instead of officer candidate school where I belong. Coleman's radio crackles to life. Coleman, this is command. General Mitchell is on base for the quarterly review. He's requesting to observe afternoon training. Rachel's smile spreads like oil on water. Perfect timing. Now you'll see what real authority looks like. The afternoon sun beats down mercilessly as General William Mitchell's motorcade arrives at the training grounds. Unlike his daughter, the general's uniform is impeccable, his posture ramrod straight despite 30 years of service. 4 silver stars gleam on each shoulder, earned through combat leadership in 3 major conflicts. Rachel straightens her uniform hastily, her first display of genuine effort all day. The general approaches, flanked by his aides and base command staff. His weathered face reveals nothing as his eyes scan the formation, finally resting on his daughter. General Mitchell. Coleman salutes crisply. Welcome to Basic Training Company Bravo. At ease, Sergeant. The general returns the salute with practiced precision. I understand my daughter is under your instruction. Yes, sir. Private First Class Mitchell is assigned to Alpha Squad. Rachel steps forward without being called. Daddy, thank God you're here. This entire program is a joke. Coleman has been singling me out, assigning me menial tasks beneath my abilities. The training ground falls silent. Even the wind seems to hold its breath as the general studies his daughter's disheveled appearance. The untied bootlaces. The mud-free uniform that proves her lack of participation. Has she indeed, Sergeant Coleman? The general's voice reveals nothing. Coleman stands at parade rest, his voice steady. Sir, all recruits receive assignments based on training requirements and development needs. PFC Mitchell has been treated no differently than any other recruit who consistently fails to meet standards. Rachel's face flushes crimson. That's a lie! He's had it in for me since day one because he's jealous of your rank. He knows he'll never achieve what you have. The general's expression darkens almost imperceptibly. Sergeant Coleman, I'd like a moment alone with my daughter. Of course, sir. Coleman moves the other recruits to the far side of the field, giving father and daughter privacy while remaining within sight. From a distance, the body language tells the story. The general's rigid posture. Rachel's increasingly animated gestures. The moment when she points accusingly toward Coleman. The general's head shaking slowly, disappointed but not surprised. When they return, Rachel's face is flushed with humiliation, her eyes downcast for the first time since arriving at basic training. Sergeant Coleman. The general's voice carries the weight of command. My daughter has something to say. Rachel steps forward, each word clearly costing her tremendous effort. I apologize for my behavior and disrespect, Drill Sergeant. It won't happen again. Apology noted, Mitchell. Coleman's face remains impassive. Report to the PT field with your squad. Double time. As Rachel jogs away, the general remains behind. A word, Sergeant? Of course, sir. My daughter has had every advantage in life except the most important one, someone willing to tell her no. The general removes his cover, suddenly looking older, the weight of both command and fatherhood evident in the lines of his face. Her mother died when she was 8. I've been deployed more than I've been home. She's been raised by nannies, expensive schools, and people too intimidated by my rank to discipline her properly. Coleman listens respectfully, saying nothing. I made a mistake sending her to Georgetown before military service. She needs this, Sergeant. She needs someone who won't break, who won't be charmed or intimidated. The general replaces his cover, once again the perfect image of military leadership. Don't go easy on her. That's an order. Never intended to, sir. The general allows himself a small smile. Good. There's a good soldier in there somewhere, Coleman. I've seen glimpses. But first, the entitlement has to be broken. Completely. Understood, sir. Oh, and Coleman? The general pauses. I've read your file. 2 Bronze Stars, Purple Heart, Distinguished Service Cross. You deserve those 4 rockers on your sleeve more than most of the staff officers wearing stars. Don't think I don't know that. 3 days later, Rachel stands in the center of the female barracks, surrounded by her squad mates. The confrontation has been brewing since the general's visit, tension building with each passing hour. You nearly got us all recycled because you couldn't be bothered to secure your weapon properly, Rodriguez says, her voice tight with controlled anger. 3 hours of extra PT in the rain because Princess Mitchell thinks weapon maintenance is beneath her. Rachel's usual arrogance falters in the face of genuine anger from peers she can't dismiss. My father? We don't give a damn about your father. Another recruit steps forward. Your father isn't here hauling your rucksack when you claim your back hurts. Your father isn't doing your push-ups when you quit after 5. Your father isn't getting smoked because you can't be bothered to make your bunk to standards. The words hit Rachel like physical blows, each one exposing the truth she's been avoiding. Here, her father's rank means nothing. Here, she has to earn respect through action, not inherited authority. For the first time since arriving, Rachel has no ready response, no cutting remark, no threat involving her father's influence. She simply stares at her squad mates, seeing the exhaustion and resentment her behavior has caused. She begins, but the words die in her throat. Rodriguez steps closer. You have 2 choices, Mitchell. Start pulling your weight like everyone else, or we'll make your life so miserable you'll beg to be recycled into another company. That night, Rachel lies awake long after lights out, replaying her father's words from their private conversation. You've embarrassed yourself, Rachel. Worse, you've embarrassed me and everything I've spent my life building. This isn't Georgetown. This is the United States Army. No one cares about your designer boots or your business degree here. For the first time in years, Rachel faces a system she can't manipulate, people she can't intimidate, and consequences she can't escape through family influence. The realization lands like a physical weight on her chest. Before dawn, while the barracks still sleeps, Rachel slips from her bunk. By the time Rodriguez calls the morning wake-up, Rachel's area is immaculate. Bed made to perfect military corners, boots polished to a mirror shine, uniform pressed and ready. She stands at attention beside her bunk, face expressionless but determined. Rodriguez studies her with suspicious surprise. What's this supposed to be, Mitchell? Some kind of joke? No joke, Rodriguez. Just doing what's required. The transformation begins slowly, almost imperceptibly. Rachel stops mentioning her father. She completes assigned tasks without complaint. During physical training, she no longer quits when exercises become difficult. She's not the fastest or strongest, but for the first time, she's genuinely trying. Coleman watches the change with guarded optimism, documenting each small improvement. When she correctly field strips and reassembles her M4 rifle, he simply nods instead of offering the praise others might receive. Rachel has a deeper hole to climb out of, and they both know it. 2 weeks into her transformation, disaster strikes. During night navigation exercises, a sudden storm system moves in, dropping temperatures and visibility. Alpha Squad becomes disoriented in the dense woods, compass readings confused by the electromagnetic disturbance of the approaching storm. We need to turn back, one recruit argues as lightning illuminates the forest in strobing flashes. We can't, Rachel counters, studying their map under the beam of a tactical flashlight. There's a ravine between us and base camp. It'll be flooding with this rain. Rodriguez peers over her shoulder. When did you learn to read topographical maps? I grew up on military bases. Rachel responds without looking up. My father taught me land navigation when I was 9. For the first time, Rachel's privileged upbringing becomes an asset rather than a liability. There's an emergency shelter 2 clicks northwest. If we move now, we can reach it before the worst of the storm hits. Rodriguez studies Rachel's face, looking for any sign of the old, manipulative Mitchell. Finding none, she nods. Lead the way! The storm intensifies as Alpha Squad pushes through dense undergrowth, rain turning the ground to treacherous mud. Rachel moves with newfound purpose, checking their position against landmarks, adjusting course when needed. The skill she'd previously dismissed as beneath her now served to protect her entire squad. They reach the emergency shelter, a concrete bunker built into a hillside, just as hurricane-force winds begin tearing through the forest. Inside, they find basic supplies, emergency rations, water, first aid kits, and communication equipment. Radio's dead. Rodriguez reports after trying to contact base. Storms interfering with the signal. Rachel unpacks her gear methodically. Protocol says to shelter in place during weather emergencies. They'll send a search team once the storm passes. The other recruits watch her with undisguised surprise. This measured, competent Rachel bears no resemblance to the entitled princess who arrived at basic training. "When did you start caring about protocol?" one recruit asks. Rachel's expression remains focused as she distributes emergency blankets. "When I realized it exists for a reason." She pauses, something like embarrassment crossing her features. "Look, I know I've been difficult. You all have every reason to hate me, but right now we need to work together to get through this night." The storm rages outside, wind howling against the bunker's metal door like a living thing seeking entry. Inside, Alpha Squad settles into an uneasy truce born of necessity. Rachel organizes watch rotations, ensuring everyone gets rest while maintaining security. Around midnight, the sound of splintering wood and terrified screams cuts through the storm's chaos. Rachel is on watch, and she moves to the bunker's narrow window immediately. "There's another training group out there," she shouts. "The storm took down a tree near their position." Without hesitation, Rachel grabs her gear, including the medical kit. "Rodriguez, you're in charge here. I'm going to help them." "Are you insane?" Rodriguez blocks her path. Protocol says we render aid to injured personnel." Rachel cuts her off. "That tree came down right on their position. They need help now, not when the storm passes." Rodriguez studies her for a long moment, then nods. "Not alone. I'm coming with you." Together they push into the storm's fury, rain lashing their faces with painful intensity. The wind nearly knocks them off their feet as they navigate toward the source of the screams. Lightning reveals the devastating scene. A massive oak has crashed through a temporary shelter, pinning at least 2 recruits beneath its enormous weight. "Help us!" A panicked voice cuts through the storm's rage. "Jenkins is trapped!" Rachel drops to her knees beside the fallen tree, assessing the situation with surprising clarity. "We need leverage. Find branches, anything we can use as a pry bar." Working in the mud and rain, they managed to create a crude lever system, using the physics Rachel had dismissed as useless during classroom instruction. Slowly, agonizingly, they lift the tree just enough to pull Private Jenkins free, his leg clearly broken but his life saved. "We need to stabilize that leg before moving him," Rachel shouts over the storm, already opening the medical kit. "Since when do you know field medicine?" Rodriguez asks as she helps secure the injured recruit. "Since I decided to start actually reading the field manuals instead of using them as pillows," Rachel replies, expertly applying a temporary splint. "My father made me volunteer at the base hospital every summer. I hated it then. Pretty useful now." By dawn, the storm has passed, leaving behind a landscape transformed by fallen trees and flooding. Search teams find Alpha Squad escorting 3 injured recruits from the other training group toward base camp, Rachel and Rodriguez supporting Jenkins between them. Drill Sergeant Coleman observes the scene from atop a ridge, his expression unreadable as medics take over care of the injured. His eyes follow Rachel, noting her mud-covered uniform, her exhausted but focused expression, the natural authority she now demonstrates without arrogance. Later that day, Rachel stands at attention outside Coleman's office, her uniform changed but the exhaustion still evident in her stance. "Enter." Coleman's voice commands from within. Rachel marches in, executing a perfect about-face before his desk. Private First Class Mitchell reporting as ordered, "Drill Sergeant." Coleman studies her in silence, letting the moment stretch uncomfortably. "You disobeyed direct orders last night, Mitchell. Protocol clearly states that during severe weather events, all personnel are to shelter in place until officially relieved." Rachel's gaze remains fixed on the wall behind him. "Yes, Drill Sergeant. You endangered yourself and Private Rodriguez by venturing out in a Category 2 hurricane." "Yes, Drill Sergeant. You violated at least 7 different safety protocols." "Yes, Drill Sergeant." Coleman rises from his desk, circling her like a predator assessing prey. Private Jenkins would have lost his leg without immediate medical intervention. The medical officer confirmed that your field splint prevented further vascular damage. The other 2 injured recruits might have gone into shock without proper care. Rachel says nothing, body rigid at attention. Leadership isn't about having authority, Mitchell. It's about taking responsibility. Coleman stops directly in front of her. For the first time since you arrived, you demonstrated actual leadership. Not because someone ordered you to, but because it was necessary. Thank you, Drill Sergeant. I'm not finished. Coleman's voice hardens. One good night doesn't erase 6 weeks of entitlement and disrespect. You've got a long way to go before you earn my respect or your squad's trust. Understood, Drill Sergeant. Starting tomorrow, you're squad leader for Alpha. Don't make me regret it. The transformation that began as a trickle becomes a flood. Rachel attacks each challenge with the same determination previously reserved for avoiding responsibility. During rifle qualification, she scores expert, her hands steady and her focus absolute. On the obstacle course, she's first over the wall, then doubles back to help struggling squadmates. Most surprisingly, she stops talking about herself entirely. Where once every conversation circled back to her father or her background, she now listens more than she speaks. She learns each squadmate's strengths and weaknesses, adjusting team assignments to maximize efficiency. When Private Thompson struggles with land navigation, Rachel spends her precious free time tutoring him. When Rodriguez twists an ankle during a night march, Rachel carries her rucksack in addition to her own for 3 miles without complaint. The final test comes during the culminating field exercise, a 3-day simulated combat mission against an opposing force of experienced soldiers. Alpha Squad, under Rachel's leadership, must infiltrate enemy territory, secure an objective, and extract without detection. On the second night, disaster strikes. Their position is compromised when a new recruit accidentally triggers a tripwire alarm. Within moments, they're surrounded by opposing forces firing simulation rounds that sting on impact and mark targets as, quote, casualties. Fall back to Rally Point Charlie, Rachel commands, her voice steady despite the chaos. Rodriguez, Thompson, covering fire. Jenkins, help me with the gear. As her squad executes the retreat, Rachel notices Private Torres, frozen in panic, directly in the enemy's line of fire. Without hesitation, she changes direction, sprinting toward the paralyzed recruit. Mitchell, what are you doing? Rodriguez shouts over the simulation gunfire. Rachel doesn't respond, focused entirely on reaching Torres before the opposing force. She tackles him just as a barrage of simulation rounds impacts where he'd been standing, using her body to shield him as they roll into a shallow depression. I've got you, she tells the terrified recruit. Stay with me, Torres. We're getting out of here. Half carrying the still stunned private, Rachel navigates through enemy lines, using every bit of terrain knowledge and tactical training she'd absorbed over the past weeks. When they finally reach Rally Point Charlie, the rest of the squad stares in disbelief. We thought you were captured, Rodriguez says, checking Torres for injuries. Not today. Rachel immediately begins reorganizing their diminished forces. They'll be searching this area soon. We need to move to the alternate extraction point. That's 5 miles in the opposite direction. Jenkins protests. We'll never make the original extraction time. Rachel studies her map with the focused intensity that has replaced her former arrogance. Then we adapt. New plan. We're going to turn this defensive operation offensive. Throughout the night, Alpha Squad executes a series of guerrilla-style ambushes against their pursuers, using surprise and terrain to overcome their numerical disadvantage. By dawn, they've not only evaded capture but have eliminated over half of the opposing force. Drill Sergeant Coleman, observing from a hidden position, watches as Rachel directs each maneuver with calm authority, her commands clear and decisive, her strategy adapting to each new challenge. This is not the entitled princess who arrived 3 months earlier, but a leader forged through difficulty and self-discovery. The final day of the exercise finds Alpha Squad successfully reaching the extraction point, mission accomplished, despite overwhelming odds. As the helicopters descend to retrieve them, Rachel ensures every squad member boards before her, checking each person for simulated injuries or equipment issues. When they return to base, exhausted but triumphant, a surprise awaits. General Mitchell stands on the parade ground, watching as the helicopters land and recruits disembark. His eyes find his daughter immediately, taking in her mud-covered uniform, her confident stride, the way other recruits naturally fall into formation around her. Rachel approaches and renders a perfect salute. "Sir," The general returns the salute with equal precision. Private First Class Mitchell. Sergeant Coleman tells me your squad performed exceptionally well. The credit belongs to my team, sir. I just had the privilege of leading them. The general studies her face, noting the absence of the entitlement that had been her defining characteristic for so long. In its place, he finds something he feared he might never see. Quiet confidence earned through genuine achievement. "Walk with me," he says. Not an order, but a request from father to daughter. As they move away from the formation, he speaks quietly. "Your mother would be proud of you today, Rachel. Not because you succeeded, but because you finally understood what it means to serve something larger than yourself." Rachel's composure cracks slightly, emotion breaking through her professional demeanor. "I was so wrong, Dad. About everything. About what matters. About what strength really is." "The strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire," he replies. "Sergeant Coleman recognized potential in you that even I had begun to doubt existed. He never gave up on me, even when I gave him every reason to." The graduation ceremony takes place under bright sunshine, 50 recruits standing at perfect attention as they prepare to transition from civilians playing soldier to actual soldiers, beginning their Army careers. When the time comes to recognize the cycle's distinguished honor graduate, Drill Sergeant Coleman steps forward, his voice carrying across the parade ground. "Private First Class Rachel Mitchell, front and center." A murmur of surprise ripples through the assembled families. Those who knew Rachel's early performance cannot reconcile it with this honor. Rachel marches forward with precision, halting exactly 3 paces from Coleman, executing a perfect about-face to stand before the formation. Private First Class Mitchell arrived at basic training believing her father's rank entitled her to special treatment. Coleman announces to the crowd. She departs having earned something far more valuable, the respect of her peers and her instructors through her own actions and decisions. As he pins the Distinguished Honor Graduate badge to her uniform, Coleman speaks quietly for her ears alone. "You're not the worst recruit I've ever had, Mitchell. Not even close to the best either. But you've shown the greatest transformation. Remember this moment when things get difficult again. Remember what you're capable of when you get out of your own way." Rachel's eyes, once filled with entitlement and disdain, now shine with something entirely different, genuine gratitude. "Thank you for not giving up on me, Drill Sergeant." "I never do," he replies simply. "That's my job." As Rachel turns to rejoin her squad, she catches her father's eye in the audience. For perhaps the first time in her life, she sees not just the general's pride, but his respect, earned entirely through her own merit. The entitled princess who arrived at basic training 3 months earlier is gone. In her place stands a soldier who understands that true authority comes not from rank or privilege, but from character forged through challenge and humble service to others. 6 months after basic training graduation, Private First Class Rachel Mitchell stands at attention on the tarmac of Al-Assad Air Base in western Iraq. The desert heat shimmers off the runway in visible waves as a C-130 transport plane rumbles to life nearby. Her freshly pressed desert camouflage uniform bears the insignia of the 10th Mountain Division, her assigned unit for this first deployment. Mitchell, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez approaches, her once familiar face now representing the authority of a squad leader rather than fellow recruit. "Final equipment check. Then we board." "Yes, Sergeant." Rachel performs a methodical inspection of her gear, body armor properly fitted, helmet secure, weapon cleaned and ready. The weight of her full combat load, nearly 60 pounds of equipment, feels almost comforting now, a reminder of how far she's come. Rodriguez watches with approval. "Hard to believe you're the same person who showed up to basic in designer boots." Rachel allows herself a small smile. "Those boots are gathering dust in storage where they belong. Your father pulled some strings to get you assigned to my squad, you know." Rodriguez adjusts Rachel's radio attachment. "I would have rejected the request, but Coleman vouched for you. Said you'd earned a real chance." The revelation lands like a physical weight on Rachel's shoulders. After everything, her father had still intervened. "I didn't ask him to do that." "I know. That's why I accepted." Rodriguez checks her watch. "We move out in 30. Get your mind right, Mitchell. This isn't training anymore." As Rachel joins her platoon for the final briefing, the weight of their mission settles around her. Their assignment: escort a convoy delivering critical medical supplies to a forward operating base near the Syrian border. Intelligence reports suggest increased insurgent activity along the route, but the supplies can't wait. A viral outbreak at the FOB has left dozens of personnel and local civilians in critical condition. Lieutenant Jensen, the platoon leader, points to the map projected onto the wall of the briefing room. "We'll take Route Copper to Checkpoint Delta, then transition to Route Bronco for the final approach. Intelligence indicates these areas have seen IED activity in the past 72 hours. His finger traces the red highlighted sections. "Stay alert, maintain proper intervals, and remember your training." The convoy departs Al-Assad under the merciless afternoon sun. Rachel rides in the third vehicle, manning the turret-mounted M240 machine gun. Her eyes scan the roadside continuously, searching for the telltale signs of improvised explosive devices, disturbed earth, suspicious objects, wires. 3 hours into the 8-hour journey, they approach a small village where the road narrows between mud-brick buildings. The lead vehicle slows as children appear, waving and running alongside the armored trucks. "Mitchell, keep those kids back," Rodriguez orders through the radio. Friendly but firm. Rachel gestures with clear hand signals for the children to move away from the vehicles. Most comply, returning to the roadside with disappointed faces. But one boy, perhaps 7 years old, continues following their vehicle, holding something in his hands. "I've got a child approaching with an object," Rachel reports, her finger tensing near the trigger guard of her weapon. The terrible possibility runs through her mind. Insurgents sometimes use children as unwitting delivery systems for explosive devices. Rodriguez joins her in the turret, assessing the situation. "Hold position. What's he carrying?" Rachel adjusts her optical sight, focusing on the boy's hands. Relief floods through her. "It's just a toy car. He wants to show us." "Roger that." "Stay alert, but let's not traumatize the kid." Rodriguez's voice carries the weight of experience. "Wave him back gently. We need to keep moving." Rachel signals to the boy, pointing to the roadside. After a moment's hesitation, he nods and backs away, still proudly holding up his toy car. As their vehicle passes, Rachel gives him a quick thumbs up, and his face lights up with a smile that momentarily dispels the tension of their mission. "Good call, Mitchell," Rodriguez says as they clear the village. "First rule out here: don't create enemies where there aren't any already." The lesson lingers in Rachel's mind as the convoy continues its journey. The military training had prepared her for combat operations, but the human dimension, knowing when to show restraint, when a soft approach serves better than an aggressive one, that wisdom comes only from experience and mentorship. Night falls across the desert as they approach a rocky section of road flanked by steep embankments, a perfect ambush location. Lieutenant Jensen orders lights to minimum and speed reduced. The convoy inches forward in near darkness, every sense heightened. Rachel feels the change in atmosphere before she consciously registers the threat. A subtle shift in the night air, the distant sound of metal against stone. She's reaching for her radio when the world explodes into chaos. The lead vehicle disappears in a blinding flash as an IED detonates directly beneath it. The concussive force rocks their truck violently, equipment flying in all directions. Before the dust settles, muzzle flashes erupt from the ridgeline to their right. They've driven into a complex ambush. "Contact right," Rachel shouts into her radio, already swinging her weapon toward the threat. The practiced movements of countless training exercises take over as she acquires targets and returns fire in controlled bursts. Rodriguez is on the radio, coordinating the convoy's response. 2 and 4, establish security perimeter. 3, with me to assist the lead vehicle. Rachel continues suppressive fire as Rodriguez directs their driver to maneuver closer to the disabled lead truck. Through the smoke and darkness, Rachel can see the lead vehicle has flipped onto its side, the undercarriage still burning from the explosion. "Mitchell, on me!" Rodriguez jumps from their vehicle, and Rachel follows without hesitation. They sprint toward the overturned truck, bullets kicking up dust at their feet. The lead vehicle's gunner lies motionless, half out of the turret. The driver and vehicle commander are still inside, their voices barely audible over the gunfire. Rachel and Rodriguez reach the truck together, immediately assessing the situation. Drivers pinned, commanders wounded but conscious. Rodriguez reports, already pulling at the commander's door. "Mitchell, cover us while I extract." Rachel takes a defensive position, returning fire toward the ridgeline while Rodriguez works to free the trapped personnel. The exchange of gunfire intensifies as insurgent fighters begin moving down the slope toward their position. Multiple hostiles advancing, 11 o'clock. Rachel calls out, adjusting her aim to engage the closest threats. Her training takes over completely. Breathing control, sight alignment, trigger squeeze. 3 insurgents fall under her precision fire, but more appear from the darkness. Inside the damaged vehicle, Rodriguez has freed the commander, a young lieutenant whose leg is bleeding heavily. "Mitchell, need your help with the driver." Rachel performs a final suppressive burst before dropping back to assist. The driver, Specialist Collins, is wedged between his seat and the crushed dashboard, conscious but unable to move. "His leg's trapped," Rodriguez explains, already applying a tourniquet to the lieutenant's wound. "I need you to stabilize him while I try to create space." As Rachel crawls into the cramped, smoke-filled cabin, a new sound cuts through the chaos, the distinctive thump of rocket-propelled grenades being fired. "RPG!" someone shouts from outside, followed by an explosion that rocks the overturned vehicle. Rachel throws her body over Collins, shielding him as shrapnel tears through the already damaged truck. Pain lances through her shoulder as a fragment finds its mark, but she maintains her position, focused entirely on protecting the injured driver. "Stay with me, Collins," she urges, assessing his condition. "We're getting you out." His eyes focus on her face, recognition dawning through the pain. "Mitchell? The general's daughter?" Despite everything, Rachel almost laughs. "Just Mitchell now. And we need to move." Working together with Rodriguez, they manage to shift enough debris to free Collins's trapped leg. As they prepare to extract him, the radio crackles with urgent updates. The ambush is intensifying, with enemy fighters attempting to flank their position from the east. "We need to move now," Rodriguez orders as they finally pull Collins free. "Mitchell, help me with the lieutenant." Jensen's establishing a defensive position 50 meters south. Rachel takes one of the lieutenant's arms while Rodriguez takes the other, half carrying him toward the rally point. Another soldier assists Collins, who can barely put weight on his injured leg. They move in a crouching run, using the vehicles for cover whenever possible. The defensive position consists of the remaining functional vehicles positioned in a semicircle, creating a protected area where the medics are already working on the wounded. Rachel and Rodriguez deliver their injured comrades to the medical team before rejoining the perimeter defense. Lieutenant Jensen's been hit. A sergeant informs them as they take positions. "Rodriguez, you're acting platoon leader now." Without missing a beat, Rodriguez begins issuing orders, reorganizing their diminished force. "Mitchell, take 2 soldiers and secure our eastern flank. The rest of you maintain suppressive fire to the north. Medics, prepare the wounded for immediate evacuation." Rachel selects 2 experienced soldiers and moves to the vulnerable eastern approach. As they take position behind an outcropping of rocks, she quickly assesses their situation. The enemy force appears to be well organized and determined, unlike the opportunistic attacks described in their pre-deployment briefings. "They knew we were coming," she tells her team as they establish firing positions. "This was planned. Someone leaked our route." Private Jenkins agrees, checking his ammunition. Question is, what are they really after? Medical supplies aren't usually worth this kind of effort. The answer comes moments later, when Rodriguez's voice cuts through their radio channel. "All units be advised. We have intel that Dr. Hassan is among the personnel at the forward operating base. Insurgents may be attempting to prevent his delivery of vaccines to the local population. Dr. Faisal Hassan." Rachel recognizes the name immediately from intelligence briefings. A renowned virologist who had defected from an extremist-controlled region, bringing with him crucial research and vaccine formulas. His work was saving thousands of lives among populations the insurgents preferred to keep desperate and dependent. "They're not after our supplies," Rachel realizes. "They're trying to delay us long enough for the outbreak to spread." A new determination fills her as the purpose of their mission crystallizes. This isn't just a supply run. It's a race against both the insurgents and the virus itself. The firefight continues for nearly 20 minutes, with the enemy gradually pulling back as supporting fire from helicopter gunships finally arrives. As the immediate threat diminishes, Rodriguez reorganizes their convoy, transferring personnel and critical supplies to the undamaged vehicles. "Mitchell, you're bleeding," Jenkins points out as they prepare to resume their journey. Rachel glances at her shoulder, noticing for the first time the dark stain spreading across her uniform. The adrenaline had masked the pain of the shrapnel wound. "It's nothing. Medic can look at it when we reach the fob." Rodriguez overhears and approaches with a first aid kit. "Nothing doesn't bleed like that. Sit down before you fall down." As the medic applies a pressure dressing to her shoulder, Rachel receives new orders from Rodriguez. "I need you in the lead vehicle now. Jensen and Collins are being medevaced, and we're short on experienced personnel. You'll be vehicle commander for the remainder of the mission." "Me?" Rachel can't hide her surprise. "I've never commanded a vehicle outside of training." Rodriguez's expression is unreadable in the darkness. "Consider this your graduation to the real thing. The convoy needs to reach that fob within 4 hours, or people start dying from this outbreak. I've seen you under pressure now. You can handle this." The responsibility settles over Rachel like her body armor, heavy but necessary. "Yes, Sergeant." The reorganized convoy resumes its journey with Rachel in the lead vehicle, now acutely aware that every decision she makes affects not just her team but the mission's overall success. They adjust their route to avoid potential secondary ambush locations, adding time but reducing risk. 2 hours from their destination, they encounter an unexpected obstacle, a bridge rendered impassable by recent flooding. The detour would add nearly 3 hours to their journey, time the patients at the fob don't have. "There's another way," Rachel tells Rodriguez after studying their maps. "There's a village 2 clicks east with a local ferry crossing. It's not on our approved routes, but it could save us hours." Rodriguez considers the option, weighing risks against their diminishing timeline. "That village isn't marked as secured. My father mentioned it during a briefing last month," Rachel explains. "They've been working with coalition forces, providing intelligence on insurgent movements. They have reason to help us." After a moment's hesitation, Rodriguez nods. "Lead the way, but approach with caution. This could be another ambush point." Rachel directs the convoy toward the village, her mind racing through contingencies and protocols. As they approach the small collection of buildings along the riverbank, she orders the convoy to halt at a safe distance. "I'll make initial contact," she volunteers. "Smaller footprint, less threatening." "Not alone, you won't," Rodriguez counters, already exiting her vehicle. "Jenkins, with us. Everyone else, defensive positions." The 3 soldiers approach the village on foot, weapons at the ready, but not raised. A delicate balance between security and diplomacy. An elderly man emerges from the largest building, followed by several younger men with watchful expressions. Rachel halts at a respectful distance. "We need to cross the river," she explains through their interpreter. "Our mission is to deliver medical supplies to prevent an outbreak from spreading to villages like yours." The elder studies them carefully before responding. "The crossing is dangerous at night. The currents are strong. People will die if we wait until morning," Rachel presses, choosing her words carefully. "Including children in villages near here." The mention of children shifts something in the elder's expression. He confers briefly with the younger men before turning back to them. "We will help you cross, but only your vehicles with the medicines. The guns stay on this side." Rodriguez shakes her head immediately. "We can't abandon our security. Those supplies are under our protection." The negotiation reaches an impasse until Rachel has an insight. "What if we reduce our footprint? 3 vehicles with essential supplies and minimal security. The rest of the convoy remains here to secure the crossing point." Both Rodriguez and the village elder consider the compromise. Finally, the elder nods. "This is acceptable. 3 vehicles only." As they prepare the selected vehicles for crossing, Rodriguez pulls Rachel aside. "This was good thinking, Mitchell. Creative problem solving." "I remembered something my father told me once," Rachel admits. "Sometimes the mission requires us to adapt beyond our training. The rulebook doesn't cover every situation." The ferry crossing proves nerve-wracking but successful. The makeshift barge, little more than lashed-together fishing boats with wooden platforms, barely accommodates their vehicles, but the villagers' knowledge of the river currents guides them safely across. On the far bank, Rachel thanks the village elder through their interpreter. "You've saved many lives tonight." The old man's weathered face reveals a ghost of a smile. "Perhaps next time you bring medicines for our children too." "I'll make sure of it," Rachel promises, making a mental note to include this request in her mission report. The reduced convoy reaches the forward operating base shortly before dawn, medical supplies intact, despite the night's challenges. As they approach the gates, Rachel feels an overwhelming sense of accomplishment, tempered by the sobering reality of their casualties. Dr. Hassan himself greets their arrival, his expression revealing both gratitude and exhaustion. "You've made it just in time," he tells them, as medics rush to unload the critical supplies. "Another day's delay and we would have lost control of the outbreak entirely." Inside the medical facility, Rachel witnesses firsthand the importance of their mission. Dozens of patients, both military personnel and local civilians, occupy every available bed, many suffering from the debilitating effects of the virus. Medical staff work tirelessly, now reinvigorated by the arrival of the needed supplies. "Your father would be proud," Rodriguez tells her quietly as they observe vaccines being prepared for immediate distribution. "You showed real leadership tonight." "I just did my job," Rachel responds, but the simple words carry none of the entitlement that once defined her. In their place is a genuine humility, born from shared danger and purpose. "That's exactly the point," Rodriguez says with unexpected warmth. "It's not about your name anymore. It's about what you do when it matters." As the sun rises over the desert landscape, Rachel finds a quiet moment to call her father, using the base's secure communication system. Their conversation is brief. Operational security limits what she can share, but his voice carries understanding beyond the sparse details she provides. "You've found your place, haven't you?" he asks, somehow knowing the transformation that has continued since basic training. Rachel watches medical teams preparing to venture into nearby villages with the vaccines, already saving lives that would have been lost without their night's efforts. "I think I have, Dad. And I didn't need your stars to find it." For the first time in their complicated relationship, she hears something like respect in his silence before he responds. "Good. That's all I ever wanted for you." As she ends the call, Rachel rejoins her team, now assisting with the organization of medical distribution teams. The shoulder wound throbs beneath its dressing, but the pain seems distant compared to the clarity of purpose she feels. "Mitchell." Rodriguez approaches with fresh orders. "We're escorting Dr. Hassan to the neighboring villages. His expertise is needed to train local healthcare workers on vaccine administration." Rachel nods, already mentally preparing for the next mission. "Ready when you are, Sergeant." As they prepare to depart, Dr. Hassan joins them, his kind eyes studying Rachel with curiosity. "Your commander tells me you were instrumental in getting these supplies through. Many people owe you their lives today." Rachel shakes her head slightly. "It was a team effort, sir. I just did my part." "Sometimes," he replies with gentle wisdom, "that is all the heroism the world requires of us." The entitled princess who once believed her father's rank defined her worth has vanished completely. In her place stands a soldier who has discovered something far more valuable than inherited status: the quiet satisfaction of serving others through her own merit, courage, and determination. 3 months after the convoy mission, Rachel Mitchell finds herself back at Al-Assad Air Base, this time standing on the hot tarmac in full-dress uniform rather than combat gear. A formation of soldiers from multiple units awaits the arrival of a delegation of senior officers. The midday sun beats down mercilessly, but Rachel maintains perfect military bearing, her eyes fixed straight ahead. "Nervous?" whispers Private Jenkins from the position next to her. "About getting a medal for doing my job?" "Mostly embarrassed." Rachel responds under her breath, the slight movement of her lips barely perceptible. Says the general's daughter who used to demand special treatment. Jenkins teases, but the words carry no malice now, only the familiar ribbing of soldiers who faced danger together. Rachel suppresses a smile. "I was insufferable, wasn't I?" "Legendary." Jenkins shifts slightly, easing the pressure of standing at attention. "Word is your father's in the delegation." The information sends an unexpected flutter through Rachel's stomach. She hasn't seen her father since before the convoy incident. Their occasional calls have been professional, almost formal, a vast improvement over their previous dynamic, but still lacking the warmth of a true father-daughter relationship. A distant roar announces the approach of a C-17 transport plane. As it touches down on the runway, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez walks the formation line, making final uniform inspections. "Mitchell, your ribbon is crooked," she says, stopping in front of Rachel. As she adjusts the decoration, she adds quietly, "You ready for this? For a medal ceremony or seeing my father?" "Both." Rodriguez steps back, examining her handiwork with a critical eye. "You've earned the medal. As for the general, well, you've earned his respect too, whether he shows it or not." The delegation disembarks from the aircraft, a collection of stars and eagles that represents the highest levels of military authority in the region. Among them, Rachel immediately spots her father. General William Mitchell moves with the confident authority that has defined him throughout her life. But something seems different. He walks with the same military precision, but without the emotional distance she remembers. The ceremony begins with formal military protocol, presentation of colors, national anthem, remarks from the base commander. Rachel stands at attention throughout, her mind unexpectedly calm. 6 months ago, she would have been preoccupied with how this ceremony might advance her career, how the recognition might open doors through her father's influence. Now, she simply feels a quiet pride in having done her duty under difficult circumstances, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action. The citation being read echoes across the formation. Rachel steps forward when called, moving with the precise military bearing that has become second nature rather than the performance it once was. As the Bronze Star medal is pinned to her uniform, she maintains perfect military bearing, her eyes fixed on a point in the distance. When it's time to salute, she finds herself looking directly into her father's eyes. The general returns her salute with perfect precision, but there's something in his expression she's never seen before. Not just pride, but a genuine respect that sees her as a soldier in her own right, not merely as his daughter. The ceremony concludes, and the formation is dismissed to a reception inside one of the air-conditioned buildings. Rachel finds herself surrounded by well-wishers, fellow soldiers from her unit, officers she's never met, even a few of the medical personnel from the FOB they'd supplied during the convoy mission. "Mitchell." Her father's voice cuts through the crowd, which parts instinctively for a 4-star general. "Walk with me." They step outside into a quieter area, the base's daily operations continuing around them. Vehicles moving, aircraft taking off and landing, soldiers going about their duties. For a moment, neither speaks, an unusual silence between two people who've always filled their interactions with either formality or conflict. "The convoy mission," her father finally says. "Your after-action report was exemplary, detailed, objective, focused on mission improvement rather than personal recognition." "Thank you, sir." The formality slips out automatically. "William." Her father's voice softens unexpectedly. "Or Dad, if you prefer." We're not in a command briefing. The simple offer to speak as father and daughter rather than general and soldier catches Rachel off guard. That might take some getting used to. "Dad." He nods, seemingly understanding the weight of this small but significant change. "Your mother would be proud of the soldier you've become." The mention of her mother, rare from her father, touches something deep in Rachel. "I don't remember much about her. She was like you." A smile touches the corner of his mouth. "Stubborn, brilliant, refused to let anyone else define her path. She would have handled your journey to maturity better than I did." "I didn't make it easy," Rachel admits, the acknowledgement coming more easily than she expected. "Neither did I." Her father looks out across the base, his expression thoughtful. "I made the mistake of trying to clear all obstacles from your path instead of teaching you how to overcome them yourself." They walk in silence for a moment, both adjusting to this new territory of mutual understanding. "I've been recommended for officer candidate school," Rachel says finally. "Based on my performance, not my last name." Her father nods, unsurprised. "Rodriguez submitted the recommendation. She came to me first, wanted to make sure I wouldn't interfere, either to help or hinder." "And would you?" Rachel watches his face carefully. "Not anymore." He meets her gaze directly. You've earned the right to succeed or fail on your own merits. The simple acknowledgement means more than any medal or commendation could. Before Rachel can respond, her radio crackles to life, a summons from the command center. I have to report in, she says, already shifting back to professional mode. Go! Her father nods, understanding. Duty first. Rachel salutes. Not because protocol demands it, but as a gesture of newfound respect between soldiers who happen to share blood. Thank you, Dad. Inside the command center, organized chaos reigns as personnel monitor screens displaying regional intelligence, communication channels, and mission status updates. Major Thomas, the intelligence officer, waves Rachel over to a digital map display. Mitchell, good timing. You're familiar with the village that helped your convoy cross the river 3 months ago? Yes, sir. They were instrumental to completing our mission. Thomas points to the village location on the map. We've received intelligence that insurgents are planning to target the village tonight in retaliation for assisting coalition forces. They've been helping other convoys since your crossing. Rachel studies the map, her mind already analyzing tactical considerations. What's our response plan? That's the problem. Most of our quick reaction forces are committed to operations in the north. By the time we could redirect sufficient forces, it would be too late. Thomas's expression is grim. We're trying to get air support, but assets are limited and weather is degrading rapidly. What about Dr. Hassan's medical team? They're scheduled to visit that village tomorrow. Rachel remembers the promise she made to the village elder about bringing medical supplies for their children. Already recalled for safety. Thomas shakes his head. Those villagers put themselves at risk to help us, and we may not be able to return the favor. Rachel feels something solidify within her. A sense of personal responsibility that transcends formal duty. Sir, I'd like to volunteer to lead a small team to the village. We can warn them, help organize evacuation or defense if needed. Thomas studies her with surprise. That's not your assignment, Mitchell. And given your father's presence on base, I can't authorize sending his daughter into potential combat without direct orders. With respect, sir, my father would be the first to tell you that my name shouldn't factor into operational decisions. Either way, Rachel stands straighter. Those villagers saved lives by helping us. We owe them the same chance. After a moment's consideration, Thomas nods. Make your case to Captain Rivera. If he approves, I'll support it. Within an hour, Rachel has assembled a small volunteer team, 6 soldiers including herself, Rodriguez and Jenkins. Captain Rivera has approved their mission with reluctance, providing them with a single light tactical vehicle and essential supplies. This is strictly reconnaissance and warning, Rivera emphasizes during their brief. You're not authorized to engage unless directly threatened. Your objective is to reach the village, warn the inhabitants, and assist with immediate evacuation if necessary. The regional QRF will be alerted, but realistically, you're on your own for at least 6 hours. As they prepare their equipment, Rachel notices her father observing from a distance. After final checks, she approaches him, expecting resistance to the mission. You're going to the river village, he states rather than asks. Yes, sir. They helped us. We owe them the same. To her surprise, he nods approval. Loyalty goes both ways. It's what separates an army from a gang of thugs with guns. He hands her a satellite phone. Direct line to my staff. If you need emergency extraction, use it. No questions asked. Rachel accepts the phone with gratitude but determination. Thank you, but we'll complete the mission properly. I know you will. For a brief moment, he places his hand on her shoulder, the first paternal gesture she can remember in years. Your mother would say I should tell you to be careful, but she'd know better. So instead, be effective, be decisive, and come back. The team departs Al-Assad as afternoon fades toward evening, the tactical vehicle moving quickly along routes selected to minimize exposure. Rachel, in the vehicle commander position, studies satellite imagery of their destination, while Rodriguez drives with practiced efficiency. ETA 90 minutes. Rodriguez announces as they clear the base perimeter. Weather's deteriorating faster than predicted. We might lose air support options entirely. Rachel nods, already formulating contingencies. If we can evacuate the most vulnerable before nightfall, the rest might shelter in the hills until reinforcements arrive. You really believe QRF will make it in time? Jenkins asks from his position monitoring radio communications. I believe in planning as if they won't, Rachel responds, her focus unwavering. We prepare for the worst while working toward the best. The journey proceeds without incident until they're approximately 5 kilometers from the village. Jenkins suddenly sits straighter, adjusting his radio settings. Mitchell, I'm picking up increased communications traffic. Encrypted, but the pattern matches insurgent groups we've tracked before. They're already in position, Rodriguez concludes grimly. We might be too late. Rachel makes an immediate decision. New approach. We'll proceed on foot from here, use the ridge line for cover. If they're watching the main road, we still have surprise on our side. The team secures their vehicle in a concealed position and moves out on foot, carrying essential equipment for communications, medical support, and self-defense. The terrain is challenging, rocky slopes giving way to loose scree that threatens to announce their presence with every step. As they crest the final ridge, the village comes into view in the valley below. Initially, everything appears normal. Cooking fires visible in the gathering dusk, children playing in the central area, normal evening activities underway. No visible hostiles, Jenkins reports after scanning the perimeter through his optics. Could our intelligence be wrong? Rachel studies the scene carefully, something tugging at her instincts. The fishing boats are missing. All of them. Rodriguez follows her gaze to the riverbank where the makeshift ferry had operated. Could be normal. Maybe they're just upstream. Or the insurgents have already taken them to prevent evacuation. Rachel points to nearly imperceptible movement at the village's eastern approach. There, in the tree line. Through shared binoculars, they confirm the presence of armed fighters taking position around the village, a classic encirclement strategy designed to prevent escape once the attack begins. I count at least 15 hostiles, Rodriguez whispers. Well armed, moving with discipline. These aren't opportunists. This is a planned operation. Rachel checks her watch, still hours before any reinforcement could possibly arrive. We need to warn the village without alerting the insurgents. Ideas? Jenkins points to a narrow ravine that leads from their position toward the river below the village. We might be able to approach from the water. The current's strong, but if we can get 2 people inside, they could organize while we create a diversion. The plan forms quickly. Rachel and Rodriguez will approach via the riverbank while Jenkins and the others prepare to create a diversion on the far side of the village when needed. Time is critical. The insurgent team is clearly making final preparations for their attack. Rachel and Rodriguez make their way down to the river using natural cover, moving with the careful precision of soldiers who understand that stealth trumps speed in this scenario. The water is cold and fast-moving as they wade across, keeping low to avoid silhouetting against the darkening sky. They reach the village's edge undetected, slipping between buildings until they locate the elder's home. The old man's eyes widen with recognition when Rachel appears at his door. You must leave immediately, she tells him in hushed tones, Rodriguez standing guard at the window. Insurgents are surrounding your village. They're coming to punish you for helping coalition forces. The elder's expression shows fear but not surprise. We knew this day might come. But many cannot travel quickly. The elderly, the children. Rachel nods understanding. We have a team on the ridge. They'll create a diversion while you evacuate the most vulnerable. Is there a place your people can hide temporarily? The caves upstream, the elder replies, already moving to gather essentials. We use them for storage. They're difficult to find if you don't know where to look. Perfect. Start moving people there immediately, but quietly. Small groups, no lights. Rachel outlines the plan while Rodriguez coordinates with Jenkins via radio. The village mobilizes with remarkable efficiency. Years of living under threat have prepared them for quick evacuation. Children are gathered, essential supplies distributed, the elderly and infirm prioritized for the first groups heading toward the caves. As the evacuation proceeds, Rachel positions herself at a vantage point overlooking the eastern approach, where the largest concentration of insurgents waits. The timing will be critical. The diversion needs to draw the attackers away from both the village and the evacuation route. First groups are away, Rodriguez reports, returning from escorting the most vulnerable villagers. About 40% evacuated. 20 minutes more for the rest. Rachel checks her watch, then the darkening sky. We're not going to have time. Look. The insurgent forces have begun to move, apparently tired of waiting for full darkness. Their approach is coordinated, squads moving to predetermined positions around the village perimeter. Jenkins, execute diversion now, Rachel orders through her radio. Priority is drawing them east, away from the river caves. Moments later, a series of explosions rock the ridge on the far side of the village. Carefully placed charges designed to simulate a much larger force. Tracer rounds arc through the darkening sky, creating the impression of a significant firefight underway. The strategy works initially. Most of the insurgent force redirects toward the apparent threat, moving away from the village and the evacuation route. Rachel and Rodriguez use the opportunity to accelerate the evacuation, personally escorting groups of villagers toward the relative safety of the upstream caves. Last group ready to move. The elder reports, his weathered face showing both fear and determination. But the young men want to stay and fight for their homes. Rachel understands their impulse but shakes her head firmly. The buildings can be rebuilt. Lives cannot. Your people need leadership in the caves more than martyrs here. The elder studies her face for a moment before nodding agreement. You have become wise since we last met, soldier. I've had good teachers, Rachel responds, thinking of Coleman Rodriguez and, surprisingly, her father. As the final evacuation group prepares to move, the situation deteriorates rapidly. The insurgents realize they've been drawn away from their primary target and begin returning toward the village. Jenkins reports that his team is falling back under pressure, their diversionary tactic reaching its limit of effectiveness. We have maybe 5 minutes before they reach the village, Rodriguez estimates, checking their defensive position. The last group won't make it to the caves in time. Rachel makes a split-second decision based on the terrain and available resources. New plan. We guide the last group downstream instead, toward the bend where the current slows. Jenkins will meet us there with the vehicle. That's directly through the area where we spotted their reinforcements, Rodriguez points out. High risk. Higher risk to stay here or try for the caves now, Rachel counters, already moving to organize the final evacuees. I need you to create a secondary diversion from that storage building. Something big enough to be visible but far enough from our exit route. While Rodriguez prepares the distraction, Rachel briefs the final group, approximately 20 villagers including several children. Stay low, move quietly, follow exactly in my footsteps. If I stop, you stop. If I run, you run. Understand? Quote. Determined nods answer her as they form a human chain, each person responsible for the one behind them. The elder takes position at the rear, ensuring no one falls behind. Ready, Rodriguez reports, having rigged the storage building with their remaining charges and flares. Execute on my mark, Rachel responds, checking that the evacuation route is clear. 3, 2, 1, mark. The storage building erupts in flames and secondary explosions, ammunition the village had hidden there creating a spectacular and convincing distraction. As insurgents react to the new threat, Rachel leads the final group along the riverbank, using natural depression and vegetation for cover. They're halfway to the extraction point when gunfire erupts behind them. Some of the insurgents have discovered the evacuation and are in pursuit. Rachel positions herself at the rear of the group, urging them forward while preparing to defend if necessary. Jenkins, we need immediate extraction, she radios. We're 2 minutes out with hostiles in pursuit. Already in position, Jenkins responds. But we've got company coming from the south as well. It's going to be tight. Rachel keeps the group moving, occasionally firing suppressive bursts to discourage pursuit without fully engaging. Rodriguez joins them at the halfway point, having set the diversionary explosion on a timer. They've figured out what's happening, she reports between breaths. Full force converging on our position, the extraction point comes into view, a small clearing where the riverbank widens near a bend. Jenkins has positioned their vehicle with the rear toward the approaching group, engine running and ready for immediate departure. But between them and safety, a small group of insurgents has established a blocking position. Get them to the vehicle, Rachel orders Rodriguez. I'll clear the path. Not alone, Rodriguez counters. We move together or not at all. Together, they advance toward the insurgent position, using fire and movement techniques practiced countless times in training. Their coordination is flawless, one advancing while the other provides covering fire, then switching roles. The insurgents, expecting easy targets, find themselves facing disciplined soldiers determined to protect their charges. The villagers reach the vehicle as Rachel and Rodriguez break through the enemy position. Jenkins has them boarding efficiently, prioritizing children and the elderly. But time is running out. The main insurgent force is closing rapidly, and their light tactical vehicle isn't designed to transport this many people. "We're overloaded," Jenkins warns as the last villagers climb aboard. "Vehicle can't take much more weight." Rachel makes an immediate decision. "Get him out of here. Rodriguez and I will exfiltrate on foot. Link up at Rally Point Bravo." "Negative," Rodriguez counters. "We all go or none go." The elder, listening to this exchange, steps forward with unexpected authority. "The children and elders will go with your vehicle. Our young men and I will move through the hills with you. We know paths your enemies do not." It's the best compromise available as insurgent fire increases around their position. The vehicle departs with the most vulnerable villagers while Rachel, Rodriguez, and a small group of village men prepare to move out on foot, guided by the elders' knowledge of hidden mountain trails. 6 hours to Rally Point Bravo, Rachel estimates, checking her remaining ammunition. "If we push hard, we can make it before dawn." What follows is a night of calculated risks, close calls, and extraordinary endurance. The elder guides them through ravines and passes that don't appear on any military map, avoiding insurgent search parties by margins sometimes measured in meters. Rachel maintains communications with Jenkins, confirming the safe arrival of the vehicle and its precious cargo at a secondary coalition outpost. As dawn approaches, they reach Rally Point Bravo, an abandoned shepherd's hut designated as an emergency extraction point. Rachel uses her father's satellite phone to request pickup, providing encrypted coordinates and authentication codes. Within an hour, the distinctive sound of helicopter rotors announces their extraction has arrived. As they prepare to board, the elder takes Rachel's hand in both of his, a gesture of profound respect in his culture. "You kept your promise, soldier," he says simply. "You brought medicine for our children, and then you became the medicine our village needed to survive." On the flight back to base, exhaustion finally overtakes Rachel. As she drifts towards sleep, Rodriguez's voice pulls her briefly back to consciousness. "You know what Coleman would say about now?" Rachel smiles without opening her eyes. "That I'm still not the best soldier he's ever trained." "No." Rodriguez's voice holds unusual warmth. "He'd say you finally understood what being a soldier actually means." As the helicopter carries them towards safety, Rachel realizes that her journey from entitled princess to respected soldier is complete. Not because of medals or recognition, but because when it mattered most, she chose service over self, responsibility over privilege, and courage over comfort. The person who had once demanded special treatment had become someone who gave special effort, transforming privilege from a prison into a platform for protecting others. 2 years after the village evacuation mission, Captain Rachel Mitchell stands at the podium in Fort Benning's auditorium, facing a sea of fresh recruits. The silver bars on her shoulders gleam under the fluorescent lights, earned through a combination of battlefield performance and accelerated officer candidate school. "When I first arrived at basic training," she begins, her voice carrying easily through the room, "I was the worst recruit my drill sergeant had ever seen. Not because I lacked ability, but because I believed ability was irrelevant. I thought my father's rank entitled me to respect I hadn't earned." The mission launches 12 hours later, with Rachel leading from the front as they insert via high-altitude jump into the remote mountainous region. The plan they've developed together incorporates elements suggested by various team members: a diversionary approach suggested by the SEAL, an unconventional breach technique proposed by one of the Rangers, and communications protocol adapted from Foster's experience in similar operations. As they approach the target compound under cover of darkness, Rachel signals for final position checks. Each team member confirms readiness through hand signals, their movements reflecting hours of rehearsal and years of training. Despite their diverse backgrounds and initial skepticism about her leadership, they now move as a single organism, unified in purpose and execution. The operation proceeds with the controlled precision that characterizes elite units. The diversion draws attention exactly as planned, allowing the main element to breach the compound undetected. They move room by room, neutralizing threats with minimal force, communicating through practice signals rather than words. Rachel leads the team to the central building, where intelligence indicates the asset is being held. As they prepare to breach, gunfire erupts from an unexpected position, a guard post their intelligence had missed, now alerting the entire compound to their presence. Change of plans. Rachel announces calmly through their communication system. Thompson, Foster, secure our primary exfil route. Williams, Jackson, hold this position. The rest with me. We're accelerating extraction. What follows is a textbook example of leadership under fire. Rachel adapts the plan in real time as new threats emerge, directing team members based on their strengths rather than proximity, maintaining tactical awareness of both immediate dangers and the overall mission objective. They reach the asset, a frightened civilian intelligence contractor, just as hostile reinforcements begin arriving at the compound. The extraction becomes a fighting withdrawal, with Rachel coordinating defensive positions as they move toward their evacuation point. When one team member takes a bullet to the leg, Rachel immediately shifts position to provide covering fire while the team medic stabilizes the wound. Her weapon runs dry during the engagement, and without hesitation she drops it to engage an approaching hostile in hand-to-hand combat, demonstrating the combative skills she'd once considered beneath her dignity to practice. The team reaches the extraction point with all members and the asset intact, though two have sustained non-life-threatening injuries. As the helicopter lifts them to safety, Rachel finally allows herself a moment to breathe, checking each team member personally before tending to a graze wound on her own arm. "That was some leadership, Captain," Thompson says as the helicopter banks toward base, textbook perfect under less than textbook conditions. Rachel shakes her head slightly. "No such thing as perfect in combat, just adaptable." "That's exactly what makes you good at this," Foster adds. "You don't try to force situations to match your plan. You adapt the plan to the reality." 3 days later, debriefed and cleared for limited duty while her wound heals, Rachel receives an unexpected visitor at the base medical facility. General William Mitchell arrives without entourage or announcement, taking a seat beside his daughter's bed with uncharacteristic informality. "I read the after-action report," he says without preamble. "Impressive work." "The team was exceptional," Rachel responds automatically, deflecting personal praise as she has learned to do. "Yes, they were. Because they had exceptional leadership." Her father's voice carries a warmth once rare between them. "I spoke with Thompson yesterday. 20-year Special Operations veteran with 4 silver stars. Know what he said about you?" Rachel shakes her head slightly. "He said you reminded him of what leadership is supposed to be. Not ordering people to follow, but inspiring them to want to." The general's expression softens with something like wonder. "He said he'd follow you anywhere." Rachel absorbs this quietly, the validation meaningful coming from such a source. "I owe you an apology," her father continues unexpectedly. "For a lot of things, but especially for underestimating you. For trying to pave your way instead of letting you find it yourself." "You don't owe me anything," Rachel responds. "I needed to fall on my face to learn how to stand properly. Maybe. But I should have been there to help you up, not calling in favors to prevent the fall." He reaches over to take her hand, a gesture so unfamiliar it momentarily startles her. "I'm proud of you. Not because you've become a decorated officer or led a successful mission. I'm proud of who you've become as a person." The conversation marks a new beginning in their relationship. Not just father and daughter, or general and captain, but 2 soldiers who understand what it means to earn rather than inherit respect. 6 months later, Rachel stands before a new group of officer candidates at Fort Benning, her combat experience and leadership reputation having earned her a temporary assignment as an instructor. The silver bars of a captain have been replaced by the gold oak leaves of a major, a promotion based entirely on merit and combat leadership. "When I arrived at basic training," she tells the assembled candidates, "Drill Sergeant Coleman called me the worst recruit he'd ever seen. He was right. I had all the physical ability and intelligence needed to succeed, but I lacked the one quality that matters most in real leadership: humility." She paces before them, her presence commanding attention without demanding it. I thought my father's stars entitled me to respect. I was wrong. True authority isn't assigned or inherited. It's earned through actions when those actions matter most. Through service rather than demands. Through placing mission and team above self. A familiar figure enters the back of the auditorium. Now retired Command Sergeant Major Coleman, come to observe his former problem child now teaching others the lessons he had once struggled to impart to her. The transformation from entitled to earned isn't easy, Rachel continues, unaware of her mentor's presence. It requires letting go of everything you thought defined your worth and building something new from the ground up. But that transformation is what separates those who wear rank from those who deserve to lead. As the session ends and the candidates file out, Coleman approaches the stage. Rachel's face lights with genuine pleasure at seeing him. "Not bad, Mitchell," he says with characteristic understatement. "You actually sounded like you knew what you were talking about up there." Rachel laughs. "High praise coming from you, Sergeant Major." "You earned it." Coleman gestures toward the empty auditorium. "Think any of them will actually hear what you're saying?" "Probably not all of them," Rachel admits. "But I didn't either at first. Sometimes the lesson has to be lived to be learned." Coleman nods approval. "You were my worst recruit, but you might be my best success story." As they walk together across the parade ground where her journey began, Rachel reflects on the distance traveled. Not just in rank or accomplishments, but in the fundamental transformation from someone who demanded respect to someone who earned it through character, courage, and commitment to something larger than herself. The entitled princess who had once believed her father's rank defined her worth has vanished completely. In her place stands a leader whose authority comes not from insignia on her uniform, but from demonstrated willingness to serve others, face danger alongside those she leads, and place mission above ego. "You know what still amazes me?" she tells Coleman as they near the obstacle course where she had once thrown her infamous tantrum. "How lucky I was that you refused to lower your standards, even when I tried every trick to make you." "Wasn't luck, Mitchell." Coleman's expression carries the wisdom of decades training soldiers. It was recognition. "I saw something in you worth the effort. The same thing your team saw when they requested you as their leader. Potential isn't the same as destiny, but with the right challenges and the right response, they can become indistinguishable." Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.